Hello and welcome. This is Deep Sleep Stories, your audio story channel. Tonight, I have a story to help you relax, warm your heart, and guide you into sleep. The classic tale of Beauty and the Beast. First, lean back, close your eyes, and take a deep breath. Let go of the daily thoughts and worries swirling in your mind. Just be here and focus on the sound of your breathing. Our story begins now. Part 1. From Riches to Rags. Once upon a time, there was a merchant named Laurent. He made his living by shipping goods on his fleet of vessels. He lived with his 6 children in a large ornate house, wanting for no luxury. Laurent's wife had passed away years before, so he had poured all his love and energy into his children and his work. Then, one summer day, unexpected news arrived. Laurent's entire fleet, in which he had invested his entire fortune, had sunk in a violent storm. Laurent was literally overnight bankrupt. To pay his debts, he first had to sell their house, then their furniture, and finally his children's valuable belongings. They moved to a small cottage with a garden on the outskirts of town. Laurent's 3 sons and 2 eldest daughters could not get used to this new, simple life. They had grown up in luxury. They didn't know how to cook, clean, or tend a garden. They complained constantly, longing for their old days. But the youngest daughter, Camille, was different. Perhaps because she was younger, or perhaps because she was more adaptable by nature, she saw this new life as an opportunity. She learned to bake bread from the neighbor women. She started growing vegetables in the garden. She mended her siblings' torn clothes. She kept the cottage always clean and tidy. Over time, the townspeople grew very fond of this humble, hard-working girl. Camille had become the secret hero who kept her family afloat. Part 2. Hope and Shattered Dreams. Nearly 2 years passed this way. One day, Laurent received incredible news. One of his lost ships had returned to port, its cargo almost completely undamaged. The house was filled with celebration. The older siblings rejoiced. This is it! We're finally free from this boring life. Laurent prepared to go to the city to claim his goods and bring his family the gifts he had promised. Everyone told him the expensive jewels, fabrics, and hats they wanted. When it was Camille's turn, she smiled shyly. Father, I know it might sound strange, but I just want a rose. They don't grow in these parts. I'm curious about their scent. I want to see the velvety texture of their petals. Laurent was both surprised and touched by his daughter's modest request. Of course, my dear, he said. I will bring you the most beautiful rose. However, when he reached the port, he faced a second devastation. The ship's cargo had not been enough to cover his debts. Nothing was left. Hopeless and distraught, he set off for home immediately, and he had no gifts. Part 3. The Mysterious Mansion. On the road, a terrible storm broke out. The wind was so fierce that his horse spooked and began running uncontrollably deep into the forest. In the darkness, Laurent saw a light. and then the silhouette of a large mansion with high stone walls. Desperate, he pushed the gate open and stumbled inside. It was silent inside, but as if someone was expecting him, a roaring fire was burning in the fireplace. On the table in front of it was a single setting of a hot dinner and a carafe of wine. Laurent, thinking the owner must be away, couldn't resist. He ate the meal, drank the wine, and fell into a deep sleep. When he woke the next morning, there was still no one there. Feeling somewhat embarrassed and relieved, he decided to slip away quietly. Just as he was leaving, he saw under a pergola in the garden a rose bush filled with the most beautiful, pure pink roses. He remembered Camille and her request. At least I can bring her this, he thought, and picked a few stems. Just then, he heard a thundering voice behind him. "Stop!" He turned to find a creature standing before him, almost as tall as the doorway, wearing a wrinkled shirt, its face and body covered in dark, thick fur. It was a terrifying sight. Its eyes blazed with anger. "You entered my home uninvited, ate my food, drank my wine, slept in my chair. I might have forgiven all that. But those roses, the ones I planted in memory of my mother, unparalleled anywhere in the world, touching them is unforgivable." Laurent, trembling with fear, apologized and told him what had happened. But the beast, true to his name, roared, "You will pay. Either you stay here and work for me, or you send one of your family members to take your place. You have 1 week. If you do not return, I will find you." Part 4. Camille's Sacrifice. Laurent returned home with the wilted roses in his hand. In tears, he told them what had happened. The older siblings cried, "Father, you can't go. What would happen to us?" Camille listened quietly. Then she stood up and said in a clear voice, "I will go." Everyone was stunned. Laurent shouted, "I will never allow it." But Camille's logic prevailed. "Father, you must stay here and rebuild our family's life. I am just a girl. I will go, pay off this debt, and return." A week later, Camille set out for the mysterious mansion with her father. On the road, she kept smiling at him, saying, "Don't worry, everything will be fine." But inside, it wasn't fear she felt, but a deep curiosity. Part 5. A New Life and the Mysterious Host. When they opened the mansion's heavy stone door, they were greeted by Gabriel, a cheerful young manservant. He led Camille to a large room furnished with magnificent pieces and a lit fireplace. Camille was astonished. This wasn't a servant's room. It was like a princess's bedchamber. The next day, she met the beast. His appearance was still frightening, but his voice was calmer, his demeanor more controlled. He gave her the keys to the house and explained her basic duties, cooking and keeping the house clean. "I am usually in the library," he said. "You may read any book you wish, as long as you do not disturb me." As days and weeks passed, Camille grew accustomed to this strange life. Gabriel told her how lonely and wounded the beast, whom she called Antoine, truly was. As they shared meals, Camille discovered that beneath Antoine's rough exterior was an intelligent, cultured, and exceedingly kind soul. They talked about literature, philosophy, and the stars. With each passing day, she became more convinced that he was not a beast, but a cursed man. Part 6. True Beauty and Liberation. One day, Camille needed to return home for a sibling's wedding. Antoine, terrified of how people would look at him, reluctantly agreed to accompany her at Camille's insistence. Camille was proven right. The moment they entered the wedding venue, everyone stared, whispered, and some even laughed openly. Seeing the pain on Antoine's face, Camille could no longer bear it. Following her heart, she stepped into the middle of the crowd and shouted, "Stop! You only see the outside. This man, Antoine, is more than any ordinary man. He has never hurt me. He respected me. He tried to understand me. His heart is more beautiful, deeper, and purer than anyone I have ever known. I love him." As soon as she spoke these words, her eyes turned to Antoine, and something incredible happened. A bright golden light enveloped Antoine. His fur disappeared. His hulking form transformed into a graceful stature. There was no terrifying beast. Standing before her was a handsome prince, looking at her with loving eyes. Camille's pure and unconditional love had broken the curse. Antoine embraced her and said, "I love you. You were the only one who looked at the heart, not the appearance." Part 7. Happily Ever After. Soon after, they were married in a wonderful wedding in the mansion's garden, under his mother's rose bushes. Laurent and her siblings were all there. Everyone was happy at last. Camille, on her journey that began with the pursuit of a rose, had found the greatest treasure: true love. Antoine, after years of loneliness, had found a heart that loved him for who he was. And they lived happily ever after, knowing that love is the greatest magic of all. I hope this long and detailed story has relaxed you and made you feel a little of the world's magic. Now, close your eyes. Let the beautiful scenes of the story play in your mind and drift off peacefully. Sweet dreams.